Hello and welcome to The Future Farmer in association with Carrs Billington, leading the industry through people, products and innovation. I'm Nick Wallis, and on each episode I'll be exploring an agricultural topic and discovering the technology that can help bring sustainable and profitable solutions to farming. From the science behind good silage to the efficient management of your milking systems. And here's a taster of what's to come. In this episode,
there's a lot of tractors now that are driverless, that you sit in there, but the GPS measures everything else and does most of the work for you. It's a little bit like the iPhone 1 to the iPhone 12, isn't it? It starts from there and then people get creative and work out how they can make it better going forward.
Yes, today it's all about technology in agriculture, and we'll be discovering all about robots, data and drones. To do so, I'm joined on the Future Farmer podcast by Technical Manager Jim McRobert.
Hi, my name's Jim McRobert and I live in the glorious Yorkshire Dales. I've been in agriculture all my life, from my granddad farming down in Devon to working with my cousins up in Cumbria. Went to an agricultural college down in Sealhain at Newton Abbot in Devon. And then from leaving college, I've worked in the industry, selling feed and fertiliser all my life, really.
Okay, well, let's focus on technology in agriculture. And you've kindly given me a list of new developments, new areas that you want to talk about. Robotic milking parlours are top of the list. What do you want to say about them? Because they seem to be all the rage right now.
It's amazing how technology has mushroomed in the space of 50 years to cows being automatically milked without any human actually touching them. And the milk goes straight in through a pipeline and straight into the tanker and away. And that technology is growing faster and faster. I do really think that we are actually moving out of the industrial age. And we can definitely see it in agriculture. We're moving out of the industrial age and we are moving into the technological age. And I think that, in the next 10 years, there is some massive improvements to be made. And the automatic milking machine, or the robotic parlour, as people call it, is just one of those inventions and one of those technologies.
Just how good are they? I mean, because I've seen enough videos now of cows, which are resolutely manual, physical things, decked out with 2 ear tags, collars. They've got foot tags as well, with sensors measuring their every move. Some of them are GPS tracked. And although they go into the milking parlour of their own accord and the robot of their own accord, everything is then done for them. It's not a comical way, but it's a very, very efficient way, and it is beyond the sort of wildest dreams of someone who may have started in the business so many decades ago. Just how good are they? How can they actually improve a farmer's lot?
Because you're not actually manually having to milk the cows twice a day or 3 times a day, it reduces the amount of labour that's actually needed. It doesn't actually reduce the skill level and the stockmanship required by the farmer, but it allows him the flexibility to be able to do it as and when he wants to do it. There is a lot of work and time involved in managing a robot, but it does allow that flexibility and reduces the amount of labour you need. And you can manage it as a one-man band realistically fairly well. You manage 3 robots, no problem at all. So that's milking 155 cows, 160 cows. It is the flexibility, but also because of the information that the robot's giving you and the fact that you can milk it 2, 3, 4, even 5 times a day, you are helping the welfare of the cow, because she's, if you can imagine a cow being milked twice a day and she's producing 40 litres of milk, then, she's carrying 20 kilograms of milk, in her udder at any one time before she gets rid of it into the milking machine. So it's much better on cow comfort. Typically, they're getting milked every 10 or 12 litres. Once they've produced 10 to 12 litres, they're getting milked, and it's better for cow health. and all around it is just a more resilient system than what we are doing, milking them through a parlour, in my belief.
Well, I think the industry is now getting very used to the familiar sight of robots. Talk to me about automatic calf feeding, because the challenges with that must be considerable.
Well, again, that is just exactly the same. It's the same way. The calf has a collar around its neck. You calibrate the information that how much milk you want that calf to receive. It goes onto a feed, what we call a feed table. So as the calf grows in age, it gives it some more milk, and then as it comes up to weaning, it reduces the amount of milk down. And so again, there's no actual feeding of the calf with milk. She just goes into a machine and she sucks away at these individual calf feeders, and that reduces the need for labour twice a day, every day, to rear the calves. So it's a very useful and handy way of feeding calves.
I've seen the Agri Epicenter in the southwest of England, and this isn't just robots doing the milking. It seems the whole concept of what's going on there has been designed around effective herd management and the needs of the cow. What's your understanding of the way technology is going to develop in this way over the next 10 years or so?
That's a fantastic question, Nick. Unfortunately, I'm not a creative type of person. I've got a fantastic imagination, as my wife would tell you, but I have absolutely, I don't know what's available.
But the level of innovation that you must be seeing, I mean, it's extraordinary for a layperson like me just to see how things have progressed from what my understanding of what dairy farming used to be to where we are now. And it is that technological innovation that's driving it, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's the very fact that we can do it. I mean, the epicenter that you talk about, that is basically managing 100 cows with one person, and he never ever touches them. They're automatically fed. The feed is automatically mixed. It's just in what they call the kitchen and distributed into different groups. And the level of management is just absolutely unbelievable at the epicenter.
And the cow shed itself is a thing of architectural beauty as well, isn't it? The way that it lets light in and it can maintain its own temperature through removing the walls or lifting the walls.
Fantastic. The other thing that it does that's very, very clever is as the cows come out of the parlour, A, they get weighed, and B, they get body scanned. So all the time they're looking to see, we're looking for these changes in body weight and cow condition, because we do know that if we're losing too much body weight, then that's going to have a health impact on the cows later on in lactation. So by being proactive rather than reactive, all these precautions take place, and actually as they go through the scanning, the camera and the weight, if they have lost too much weight, they are actually shed off, so that you have to do something with them. So it's it's a brilliant form of technology, and it will, I do believe things like that will become commonplace going forward.
Well, data collection is something that is affecting industry worldwide. We hear about big data because now we've got the supercomputers that can crunch the numbers, and we've got the sensors that can collect the information in the first place. You mentioned the weighing and the scanning of the body there. What else do you see in terms of data collection in the parlour that is going to become more useful to a farmer as these technologies develop?
Well, there's already people collecting data on health data. I think most of the data is now being able to be collected. It's the collating of that data, and then it's how people interpret the data. But because we're able to gather the data and have millions of data sets rather than just 10 or 20, and the fact that you can then correlate and see what's actually happening and really put some useful information behind that data from what you see out there. One of the companies that we work with, they've actually come out with a score called Room and Fill, And with their data, they're able to accurately predict whether a cow, just on the rumen fill, which is a scale of 1 to 5, during the dry period and the fresh cow, post-calving period, whether or not, if that rumen fill drops below 3, when they know from all the data they've been collecting that cow is going to have metabolic problems going forward. And things like that, when you can just do it, and it's just a simple management practice just to make sure that cow doesn't go below 3. Things like that can save the industry millions.
Yeah, because it's preemptive, isn't it?
It's the use of that data that we're able to get and the interpretation of it. I think we know most of the data because it's not difficult to get, but it's just the interpretation of it.
I mean, there are huge numbers of different devices that are coming into use across agriculture. I imagine some will be more useful than others, and some will be massive hits once word spreads about them. Let's talk about activity devices. What devices are available at the moment, and what do the best ones do?
The main activity devices are for cow recognition. That's the first thing, being able to accurately identify which actual animal it is. And then from that, then you're able to work out when the cow, with the activity, it's whether she's on heat. So that's obviously very important because you don't often see the cow mounting in bigger herds and you don't have the time to observe. So it's very, very useful if you're able to see there's a spike in the activity of the cow. On the reverse side of that is if there is low activity, which will often signal that the cow is, 1 or 2 days before you see it, she's either got some sort of an illness, possibly mastitis, or she's going lame. And so the early detection will actually help you to intervene and stop the cow getting worse or save the cow in worst case scenarios. So that helps massively. Then with new ones nowadays, they have lying, so we know how long a cow's been lying down over a 24-hour period. So they're just highlighting abnormal behaviour. There's a vast number on the market these days.
So how do farmers make the right choice with so many different technologies available, all doing ever so slightly different things? Where should they take the plunge, and what should they be maybe talking to you about when they want advice about which technology they should be buying into?
That's a really hard one. Obviously, it depends on what that actual farmer wants to achieve, where they see the pinch point is, and whether the technology can help them, or if they're just wanting to get further into technology. I always start to look at the soil. And, because if you've got a poor soil, then you haven't got much of a farm, because that's what really does make the difference on a farm, is the quality of the soil to begin with. So that then goes, because the soil grows the grass or grows the crops. So it's very, very important that we do that. So making sure that we have that right. And nowadays, with the things that we can do in terms of soil technology, with soil sampling, the amount of things that we can get from soil sampling, different parameters. Nowadays, what's actually happening with GPS on tractors, we're able to do a thing called vary spreading. And vary spreading allows you to soil map the farm and work out which areas need more nitrogen or phosphate or potash in the field. So you're able to maximize your inputs. And I did see that I was watching a webinar, and there was a farmer there who was actually working out the quality of his soil was like. And in shallow areas, or areas where it wasn't yielding as heavy, because he was using a flow meter on the combine to work out a yield map of the farm. So he was yield mapping, and it was overlaying the yield map on a soil map. And then he was working that into the pounds per tonne of pounds on what that field yielded him, if you can imagine. So he had a map of how much each particular part of the field was yielding in terms of pounds. And what that actually meant, when he worked it out backwards, was that he needed a higher seed rate in those particular areas. So by vary spreading, he was actually able to adjust his seed rate and put a higher seed rate. So things like that are just, to my mind, they're absolutely mind-blowing.
But they also have a great value to them because you're only putting your resources exactly where you need them. And then presumably they have a lower environmental impact as well.
Absolutely bob on. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. And that's obviously what everybody's looking for now, is to be sustainable and environmentally acceptable.
So when you obviously embrace technology and you've got an encyclopedic knowledge of it. What's the typical farmer thinking about and doing nowadays? I guess necessity is the mother of invention, and if they have to reduce their fixed costs or try and increase their margins, then technology is an option. But they often come at a large capital cost, don't they?
Well, there's things that, using technology can help. If we look at what I'm involved in mainly, which is dairy cows, we're involved with a project at the moment where we're looking at satellite measurement of grassland. Currently, people use a thing called a plate meter where they walk around the farm, and they call it plonking, where they have a plate on the bottom of a stick, and they put this stick down and it measures how much the density of the grass, and they convert that into kilograms a hectare of dry matter. And from that, they're able to work out how much grass to give the cows, and they're able to understand whether what they call the farm cover is increasing or decreasing. So it's a fantastic way to manage your grassland in cows. And most of the efficient farmers do use some sort of grassland measurement. Now, going back to what we were talking about, robots, exactly the same is in with grassland measurement, is a lot of people don't do it because it's an hour, 2 hours every week around the farm. And what we've managed to find is a company that can actually measure the grass using satellites. So that information is updated on a daily basis. And we do think that, once we've got it completely fit for market, that will be an absolute game changer in the grassland market. So we're really excited about that.
So all you'd have to do is buy into the satellite service and you'd get delivered the software which would be able to tell you about the density of your grass all over your farm.
Absolutely. And the satellite technology is just immense what that will do. Potentially we'll be able to measure carbon sequestration, all that sort of stuff we'll be able to look at going forward in the future. And linked with that, there's drones. Drones now are able to. We're working with a company in Poland where we can mapping using drones or hyperspectral imagery is what they're using with the drone, working out what the soil nutrient levels are around the farm. So we're able to do the soil mapping remotely from a drone. There's some drones that are being used to identify disease in crops. The drone usage and the technology in this is just really becoming alive, and it's all over the world. It isn't the UK have not got the lion's share of the technology in agriculture by any means. There's over 1,000 agri-startup companies looking at technology in Poland. It's just massive. It's incredible.
I've seen pictures of a farmer standing there in his wellies with a little iPad and a drone hovering above him. Again, it's not the image of a typical farmer that you'd expect, but I guess what these technologies can do is save time and money, and therefore are worth the investment. But how do you persuade a farmer to put in that capital investment? What would you be leading them towards? Because obviously, I'm sure most of them recognise that some of the technologies out there are going to be game changers, are going to revolutionize the way that they work on the farm. But you've still got to work out how to be able to afford them in the first place, haven't you?
Ultimately, Nick, what you're aiming to do on any farm is to make a profit. And what they're wanting to do is they're producing food. So it's how do we produce that food that is in a sustainable way, because a lot of the way that we are producing food at the moment is causing a lot of damage to the soil and to the environment. And that is going to be something that is driven by government going forward over the next 10 years. So where does technology fit in that? As we said, it probably won't be about big heavy tractors and the speed and the time and the scale. It will be about small, nimble drones, small robots. They're already designed the hands-free hectare, where they've completely harvested a hectare of wheat without any input from humans at all, just using robots.
Is that a gimmick, or is that the farm of the future?
It's a little bit like the iPhone 1 with the iPhone 12, isn't it? It starts from there, and then people get creative and work out how they can make it better going forward. It's some and some, isn't it? There's a lot of tractors now that are driverless. You sit in there, but the GPS measures everything else and does most of the work for you. And we're getting to driverless cars. So that technology is not far away. They've got to see that there's a benefit to them. It's got to save them time. It's got to make them money. But a lot of what it will do, because it's if you take the activity monitors, it's helping them see the cow come on to heat. It's helping them see a sick cow. Both of those, by intervening in a time-friendly manner, will help you make more money. Learning how to manage your grass better using something like our satellites, then that will help you grow more grass and manage that grass much better. And by doing that, that will make you more profitable. By investing in GPS equipment, that will help you measure and manage your applications of fertilizer, of seed corn, of chemicals, etc. That will all help you by being able to yield map your fields. That will tell you where your poor areas are in your field, and in some cases, the yields in some of the areas of the field may be so low that it's actually worth just leaving out, and dare I say, planting with trees, because that is the best option for that piece of land.
I can see how technology, therefore, is going to make things more efficient. I'm very intrigued by this idea that they or technologies could be brought in to make the environment more sustainable. Do you see that actually happening in terms of improving soil quality, improving the sustainability of a farm, to the extent that you start seeing better renewal rates and more potency go into the soil from where we are now?
Nick, that's a whole nother podcast.
It is fascinating, though, when you look at the technology.
You get me on that, you'll need an hour.
Well, okay, then I'll tell you what, given that we've nearly done our allotted time, is it time to say goodbye to plonking and hello to the future of drone and satellite technology to improve farming?
Absolutely it is, most definitely.
Jim, listen, thank you so much. It's fantastic to talk to you and gather a level of your enthusiasm and expertise for technology. You may not be able to do the futurology side of things, but you certainly know how to pick it up once it's arrived, and then make it of interest and application to farmers.
Thank you very much indeed.
Well, that's it. Thanks for listening to the Future Farmer podcast in association with Carrs Billington. For more information about some of the issues discussed in this episode, search for the Carrs Billington website. Once there, you can email with your inquiry, or if you've a question about feeds, machineries, agricultural and rural supplies, or fuels, there are Carrs Billington experts on the other end of the phone. Listen out for future episodes, and don't forget to like and subscribe so we know if we're answering all your questions. I'm Nick Wallis, and until next time, keep safe and keep farming.